Student on DTC. Amanda Coffin on the DTC.
Hey everybody, I'm Coley Works and I'm a Human Ecology Senator.
I'm Megan Herpick, I'm on the DTC.
I'm Olivia Bowman. I'm outgoing student body vice president and I'm taking minutes, so I'm not just rudely on my computer the whole time, just to let y'all know. I'm also doing attendance, so I missed a couple. I'm just gonna read names really quick. Let's see, Megan Herpick.
Right here.
Oh, sorry, I was focusing on this. That's not bad. Okay. Is Jake McIntyre here? No. Molly Klein. Colby, you're here. Brittany Haynes.
No, she resigned. I need to get that updated for you.
Gotcha. All right. Sorry about that. I'm good.
All right.
Oh, I'm Julia. I'm on the tuition. Yeah, tuition fees, right?
Steering degree, privileged free community chair, non-voting member.
Jack Ayers, student vice president as far as the week. I was perfect qualifications replacement with Brian, so we're working on that. Okay, I hope it's right.
I'm Craig Harms, Department of Kinesiology.
I'm Tom Bookball, I'm the Dean of College and Human Ecology, and I'm going to sit down now. I only stood up to see everybody.
Heather Reed, SGA advisor.
I'm Brian Mitchell. I'm acting the president on the next issue.
All right. I'm Jonathan Pushin. I'm the Speaker of the Student Senate and also the co-chair of this committee with Jack.
Sorry. Thanks, Jonathan. My name is Trenton Kennedy, and I'm on tuition fee strategies.
I'm Jordan Keel. I'm chief of staff and income student body.
All right. With that, we've got one quick business before we dive into the presentation. Stephen Kuchera is the Student Support Director for Education. I included in that email to you all a resolution about needs-based scholarships. So he's going to talk about that real quick for us.
Yeah. So as Student Support Director, I've worked on many different issues this year. One of them has been, we just opened a food pantry on the campus, Cat's Cupboard. So in the last 2.5 months, in the first 3.5 months of the new year, we've served over 200 students who've been dealing with food insecurity, who don't know how they're going to be able to afford enough food, who are having to choose between food and textbooks. Thank goodness that resource is there now. So the resolution that I sent to you deals specifically with needs-based scholarships and the importance of those. There are a couple of numbers in there. I'm not going to go into the numbers, but basically the cost of attendance at K-State, the cost for students to attend continues to go up, and it has outpaced the amount of scholarships that are available to students. And similarly, the rate of inflation has exceeded the average household income. One of the major factors that's caused the cost of education at K-State to increase has been the reduced funding of higher education by the state government. So the Student Senate, I drafted the resolution and Student Senate voted on this resolution, and it sent it to some individuals such as the president of the university saying, actually, needs-based scholarships is one of the main priorities for the large fundraising campaign that the university is doing, but it's dependent upon the university president and the deans to make that a priority in their interactions with donors. So those were a couple of the sections that were described in there. And the part of the resolution that specifically deals with you says, when considering tuition or fee proposals, KSU SGA encourages the 2017-2018 committee to evaluate whether additional needs-based scholarships and first-generation scholarship offerings are being made available to offset the burden imposed on the students most impacted by tuition hikes. So this is speaking to the importance of making sure that we think about those students who are on the bubble financially, who might not be able to attend with increased costs, because we've seen this start to happen at K-State with the 8% enrollment decline over the last 3 years. So I really am not taking sides on any of these fees. I went around at the beginning of the year and talked to a lot of scholarship officers around the university. So I'm basically here as a subject matter expert if you have a question or if, like, you want to know something when it comes to needs-based scholarships or what resources are available at the university, just ask me. If not, I'll just be here. And good luck with the deliberations. Does anyone have any questions for me?
All right. If not, thank you very much, Stephen. We will dive into the presentation. So,
Do you want me to sit, stand? Do you have a preference?
you can do whatever you want.
I much prefer standing to do that. So, Jack, maybe I'll trade places with you.
That sounds
so you're
great.
not looking behind.
The only thing I would say is, unfortunately, our little clicker don't work, so you just have to tell me or hit that.
Oh, I can use this. This is fine. That's okay.
That sounds great.
Okay. I'll get it away. Heather, are you okay?
I'm fine,
You wanna
I can
move
see.
over? Okay, I don't want to cover
Got
up
an angle
anybody.
here.
Okay. Well, first off, thank you everybody for the opportunity, and again, appreciate you guys being here. I realize that you guys have important decisions to make. This is not an easy committee to be on, and some really important decisions. So I thank you for your service and this opportunity to speak with you this evening. Realizing fully aware that not all of you are familiar with what it is that we do in our department, very briefly, just orient yourself. Our 2025 strategic plan states our mission is to study an application of physical activity for optimal health. And our vision is to house a top 5 kinesiology program in the United States. And the only reason I bring this up is that we pride ourselves on being very productive and also very high expectations amongst not just our faculty, we have our students as well. As an example, amongst our students, we have a very high success rate currently, as well as the total number of students being admitted into health professional schools. I'll give you an example. Among physical therapy schools in the last several years, we have the highest number and the highest percentage of students who are being admitted and entering in PT schools of any state, of any other school in the state. So I think we're doing a very good job in terms of the quality of students, but also doing a good job of getting them into professional schools. In terms of our faculty, again, we're not just good at one thing. We have a very excellent group of faculty. In terms of research, over 80% currently have extramural funding, over $4.5 million currently. Teaching as well, not just good at one thing, but last year I had the opportunity of being department head. I see all of our evaluations, and we averaged 4.5 in terms of overall teaching effectiveness, all faculty, all kinesiology classes. So we're very proud in terms of the product that we do. So in terms of this particular fee objective, why are we doing this? Really, it's two-pronged. Number one, to provide greater opportunities for successive students. Bottom line, that's what we're after here. And second, to adapt to the changing demands. Demands, as I'll point out here shortly, both at the students and as the department as well. So we were given this task, if you will, series of questions that Jonathan sent around in terms of that we were supposed to address, and so I'll kind of attack each one of those. First off, what will the new funding pay for? To attack this problem, we focus on like a two-prong approach. And certainly we had an idea in terms of what we thought as a faculty is most appropriate in terms of what we could use this in terms of enhancing the opportunities. But rather, and again, this has been like a year-long process. Last summer, we took the approach, well, let's ask our students, what do they feel is missing? And so that's the first thing we did. To understand the needs and demands of our students, we sent a survey out to all of our students, over 630 students at the time, and asked for their response. What do you feel is missing? What would you like to see? We had over 250 responses. From those, the top areas of greatest concerns, again, from students' perspective, limited ability, opportunity to get to know faculty, which I'll address. Second, not being able to enroll in classes when needed. Not adequately prepared for professional schools. Again, we as faculty would argue that point, but these are students' perception. And four, not enough certificate programs. With regard to instruction, additional courses to better prepare students for professional schools. More clinical courses, applied courses, and internship opportunities, and increased research opportunities, which I'll address. So we basically use this as a template for our course for fee proposal. Step two, how can we address these issues? What we are proposing is a revised curriculum. Currently, our curriculum has been in existence ever since I've been here for nearly 21 years, and it's basically a one-size-fits-all curriculum. All of our students take the same requirements regardless of what their career aspirations are, whether they're interested in getting into the workforce or entering into health-related professions. They all take the same thing. It served us well, but it's not doing as good as it could have. And so this approach is nothing that we invented. I spent last summer visiting with several of the top kinesiology programs across the country, visiting with department heads in terms of what are they doing. And so what usually works best is you steal from what works. And so this is exactly what the approach that they are taking as well. So we decided to take the approach in terms of a career-focused curriculum. And by that I mean we're offering 3 concentrations. We had a lot of debate in terms of what those should be. And we narrowed it down in terms of the health pre-professional, applied exercise, and physical activity and health promotion, which I'll get into a little bit later in terms of what that specifically means. And again, emphasize that these are not different degrees. Our hope somewhere down the line, way that far down the line, that these turn into actual certain different degrees. But for now, they're concentrations within our major. In order to do this, step 2, along with step 2, part B, is to hire 2 new full-time 9-month instructors. Okay, what these instructors would be doing is teach new courses, as well as to offer new certification options. I'll address it.
I have a quick question.
Please.
Would those be 100% instruction-based, or would they be research-based?
I'll get to it in a second. These are non-research appointments. Okay. Yes, that's that right away. These are non-tenure track, strictly instructor positions. Yes. So in terms of what we envision this, and again, this is not set in stone, but this is simply a template or guideline, what we envision. It ultimately depends on who we hire, and if the course fee goes forward, obviously narrow that down. As an example, coordinate and teach anatomy and physiology labs within our department. Currently, we have 13 GTAs. Each GTA teaches 4 labs every semester. So we offer 52 labs every semester, and those are taught entirely by our GTAs. The 360 lab, the anatomy and physiology lab, is labor intensive. It's an 8-hour course, and so it's kind of equivalent, if you will, of 3 labs equivalent to 1 lab of one of the others. So what I'm suggesting here is what this instructor would help do is to teach some of those labs. How many to be determined. But what that would do is free up, if you will, 2 of our current GTAs to teach additional kinesiology labs depending on demand. And I'll give you the list there in terms of what they could do. Also, we would hope that they would teach new clinically based courses. To be honest with you, we don't offer a lot of these. Our faculty are basic scientists by training. This is what we do, and this is what we do very well. We don't have a lot of clinically based courses, and this is what our students are asking for. And so this would help with that. And I'll give you an example of several of the type of courses that could be offered. And then finally, help expand the internship opportunities. Currently, our internship coordinator is a full-time instructor. So she's dealing with everything that she has to do and dealing with internships as well, which I'll talk about a little bit later on. Instructor 2 would teach new classes in the second concentration that I mentioned, the applied exercise concentration. It gives an example of the type of courses that this could potentially offer. Again, this is an area that we do very little. Currently, we offer 2 courses in this area, and that's kind of marginal whether they fit. This is a rapidly growing area that I'll talk about in a little bit here that has a high demand. And a lot of our students are asking for more of these classes, so certainly could be a strong recruitment tool as well. And then coordinate a new certification program. As I think a lot of you are aware, certifications are really important these days in terms of getting jobs, getting that something extra on your resume. And I know I've seen through other colleges and other departments, they're doing the same sort of a thing. So this has become really important, and it gives you an example of several of the types of certifications that we could potentially offer. Additionally, why is this a critical need? Well, as I mentioned in terms of our overall objective, what we do as our department, we study health. And if you look at the national trend of the U.S. Labor Department, we're in the middle of a cycle where healthcare industry will comprise nearly 1/3 of the 15 million job gains. Additionally, about 1/2 of the 30 fastest growing jobs are in healthcare related. Again, this is what we do. This is why we tend to see our numbers increasing. And points to the fact that kinesiology is the fastest growing field and major in the US. This was a different 5-year period, but it points to the national trend. This isn't nothing that we're seeing specifically at K-State, but again, it's happening across the country. Specifically with regard to us, again, roughly 65 to 70% of our students enter into the health-related careers. Pre-med, physical therapy, nursing, physician assistant, occupational therapy, chiropractor, etc. This is where the majority of our students are entered anyway, doing very well. Our enrollment has averaged about 700 students over the past 6 years, which makes us the third largest major on campus. We've done this with a very small number of faculty. 13 total faculty, of which 11 and a half actually have teaching appointments. So as a consequence, I think you can appreciate the fact that our educational experience that our students are getting isn't what it was in previous years, or more importantly, what it could be. And I think that's the crux here in terms of what we're getting at in this course fee proposal. Without getting too bogged down in charts and figures here, but I'm a scientist, so I like these sort of things. If you look at the thing on the left, figure on the left, the kinesiology undergraduate enrollment, simply to demonstrate that what we're seeing here on campus. 20 years ago, we had enrollment of roughly a little over 300 students. You can see the rapid increase that we've had over the last 20 years. We saw this dip here about 12, 13 years ago. This is where athletic training programs started. And so in food, nutrition, dietetics, and health. And so a number of our students who were in that discipline transferred over. After that time, you can see, however, that we've had about a 60% growth rate over the last 10 years. We recovered from that. And so over the last 20 years, we've essentially doubled our enrollment. Interestingly, this is just last week when I was working through this and thinking through some of these numbers. You'll notice that you'll see this drop here. Again, this is coincidence what we saw with the university as well in terms of decreased enrollment numbers. My initial response when we saw these numbers was, well, this is a trend that we saw with the university. But when I went back and looked at our numbers, what we saw the difference between here and here, in terms of our orientation and enrollment numbers in June, they were nearly identical. In terms of new students coming in, we were only down about 5 to 10 students, not the 50 to 60 students that this reflects. So the difference is where the difference came from was sophomores, juniors, and seniors. Why? My guess had to do with because of this. We saw this rapid trajectory happening here, the number of faculty that we have, difficulty enrolling in classes, whatever. It's purely speculation. But it wasn't due entirely to simply decreased numbers in terms of our majors. What's important here is what's going on the right-hand side, though, and this is the number of faculty that I pointed out dealing with the number of students. And you can see, again, 20 years ago, we were about a 30-to-1 student-to-faculty ratio. You can see that we have not been able to keep pace with a rapid increase in student enrollments, so that currently we're at double that, about 60-to-1 in terms of student-to-faculty ratio. And again, that represents about 50% increase over the last 10 years. This represents, again, what the university on the website, 18 to 19 to 1, what they are. And the only reason for me showing this, again, our whole point of this course fee proposal is dealing with the student experience, student opportunities. So if we look at in terms of the opportunities students had here, or even 10 years ago, compared to what it is now, you remember that list that I showed in terms of students, what they felt was missing? This is certainly reflecting that. The opportunities are lost by not having more opportunities that we'll address here in a second. Second, the benefits to students, college, university. Well, students, again, the curriculum that better prepares them for professional school or a career. Again, we don't want just another one-size-fits-all curriculum. We want it more tailor-made to what's going to prepare them to what it is that they want to do, either in professional school or getting that job. More contact time with faculty and their concentration. And this shouldn't be dismissed too lightly here. Please appreciate the fact that when we're talking with students getting into professional schools, these require letters of recommendation. And they're very powerful. And they're very powerful coming from faculty. When you have a 60-to-1 student-to-faculty ratio, it's difficult to get to know students on a close basis. And so this has become a real challenge. I know several of our faculty last year told me that they were writing in excess of 50 letters per year of students. And again, can you get to know a student very well to do an adequate letter under those circumstances? So I think that's very important as well. Third, greater undergrad research opportunity. Again, we all know that this is a priority among the university, the college, and certainly within the department. And again, we have long wait lists among all of our research faculty. Students are being encouraged to do research, but we simply don't have the opportunity, faculty don't have the opportunity to do that. In terms of the college and university, allows us to continue with our 2025 vision and our plan, which is linked in terms of the university plan. Why can other resources or sources be used? Well, again, there are no resources for the college or the university currently with new faculty hires. It's the world and the age that we live in. In terms of other sources that could be used to do this, please realize that our department has only been in existence for roughly 25 years in its current format. So in terms of longevity, in terms of alumni base, we don't have that luxury of having donors that have been around 50, 60, 70, 80 years. Our current endowment is roughly a little over $200,000, which doesn't give us any good in terms of reoccurring funds for opportunities such as this. Alternative solutions other than course fee. Well, when I became department head 4 years ago, we spent an extensive amount of time looking at controlling or containing our enrollment because it was growing like I showed you before. Looking at ways to restrict enrollment, entrance requirements, and things like that that some units on campus have. We decided against that. We felt that with the trend that we're seeing with healthcare being so important, with students interested in going in this profession, it made a whole lot more sense to look for alternative, look for ways to accommodate rather than restrict. As a consequence, one of the things we've done, which other units have done as well across campus, is increase the number of online classes. And I'll talk about that a little bit here. Online classes are a good thing in the right environment. Okay, if they're simply used as a revenue generator, which ours typically have been, I'm against that, and I'll speak to that in a little bit here. But that's what we, by necessity, had to go to. Increased number of internship opportunities. This is something that's been a priority with me. 4 years ago, we had roughly 10 to 15 students doing internships over the course of the year. Most of those were in the summer. Last year, we had over 65 to 70 students involved in internships. Again, this is a good thing. It helps students in terms of, the opportunities, what's out there in the real world. Also, it takes students taking closed classes, doing internship classes rather than taking a face-to-face class. So it helped with our bottlenecks, if you will, in terms of our classes. But again, we have one person who's also a full-time instructor doing that responsibility. Makes it a real challenge. Why a fee versus something else? Well, a fee made the most sense economically. Again, the only alternative that we came up with in terms of ways to do this is looking at either restricting enrollment, which we don't agree with in terms of this college environment. We're looking at ways to increase student enrollment, or online classes. I'll point out that really it doesn't make a lot of sense to go that route. This is the most sense economically in terms of the quality of the undergraduate experience, as well as the challenge of meeting the high demand major, not just now, but as we look towards the future. We anticipate that growth is only going to continue. So specifically, again, I'm sure you've all seen the proposal. Won't spend a lot of time here. We're asking for basically a $15 per credit hour fee. Based upon our number of student credit hours, you can see we generate over 10,000 per year. Generates about $155,000 per year. We're proposing 2 full-time faculty, $55K per year, plus benefits gives us basically $130,000. The balance help account for initial salary based on the market value. Again, we don't know if we're going to get the type of faculty that we want at that amount. We'll have to wait and see. Accounts for future raises for these as well. And probably even most important is the last point here, prevents us from eliminating additional GTA positions. As I think as we're all aware, we're probably not done with budget cuts. It's the age that we live in. And every time that we lose a GTA position, again, that's 4 labs that we're cutting. If we cut 4 labs, those directly influence in terms of our lecture as well. So it has direct impact. So we're very aware and protective of our GTA positions. So the $15 student credit hour fee, what does this amount to? Because we have a lot of students, because we generate a large number of student credit hours, this amounts to a little over $700 total over the 4-year degree program that would cost the students, which amounts to an average of about $88 per semester. Interestingly, as I said, the alternative, if we didn't do the fee, if this fee does not go forward, we'll most likely be doing is additional online courses. Well, there's the facts right there. If we do simply the tuition, this doesn't include fees, simply the tuition, are offering 2 additional 3 credit hour online classes, cost $744 more per students than 2 face-to-face classes. So that's more than what we are proposing for our students. But you get those 2 instructors, you get everything else associated with that other than simply 2 classes. How our college identifies student need, again, I realize that this question was more specific towards college rather than department, so there's really no clearly defined methods for generating student need. What we have done as a department level is increase our number of scholarships that I'll point to in a second here. We currently give 20 to 25 annually, both through and down, as well as using our own sources, our own revenue sources, and then university scholarships as well, which our students have been very successful in terms of obtaining. Efforts to offset, again, primarily through scholarships. We put a concerted effort in terms of the number of scholarships that we're generating for our students. We've generated over the last 4 years 10 to 15 new scholarships that amounts to a 60% increase in terms of revenue that we give out. And this has come from revenue generated from our online classes that we currently do, as well as our LIFE program, which is our adult fitness program that we run through our department. Additionally, I'm very excited about this opportunity, the second point here, that we've established a brand new, as of a month ago, endowed $60,000 endowed scholarship with our department. What this scholarship is thanks to the generosity of the ICE family, they've agreed to partner with at the department level. Again, typically these are at the college level, which they have partnered. This is at our level, and it's a match fund. And so I approached a number of our senior faculty with this idea. And to show the commitment and dedication our department has to our students and to our department, 6 faculty members are contributing $5,000 out of their own pocket to generate these $30,000 to give us a match fund of $60,000 towards strictly scholarships to our students. Again, this is brand new. It just happened. The MOU was last month. Additionally, we started study abroad scholarships, some college course fee funds, and undergraduate fee scholarships as well. So a lot of scholarship opportunities that we're really cognizant of to help with students. Open textbook initiative, I think very near and dear to Brian's heart here. We've taken this to heart. You know, this is a thing that, an initiative that we feel is very valuable and important. And over 80% of our kinesiology classes are currently using this open textbook initiative, or they're simply not using textbook at all. We've kind of taken that away. So either they're part or not. As a consequence, we've estimated that this saves students on the ballpark of $400 to $500 over the course of their career. Again, so when we're talking $700 total cost of this fee, we've had a number of issues already that's kind of balances that out. And then simply limiting the number of online classes that I pointed as well. I'm not a huge fan of online classes, and the reason why is if they do the purpose that they're intended for, they work well. But almost 100% of our students enrolled in our online classes are coming from students who are already here. I think we've only had 3 students who are taking our online classes that are not on campus already. We're simply a revenue generator. I mean, let's be honest, that's the only reason that we're doing it, and to meet the demands of students. These are costly to students, we get it. And so we've been very cognizant of limiting these numbers. We have to do it by necessity just because our numbers are so large, but we're very wary in terms of doing too much of this. How does this help fulfill our strategic plan? Again, I don't expect you to read all this, but I've simply highlighted, this is simply lifted from our 2025 vision. We want to prepare students to be competitive for postgraduate opportunities, employment, and professional schools. I've already emphasized this. This fits exactly in terms of our vision. You can see a couple examples in terms of internships and research experience. Specifically, I was asked for more detail on these 3 concentrations. Again, the health pre-professional concentration, as I mentioned, interested in students who are interested in health-related careers. I think we do a really good job in this already. The problem is not getting students through, it's the quality that they're getting. please appreciate the fact that we're talking about some of these physiology courses that we're dealing with here. They're a very complex system. When you're trying to deal with a class size of 70 students or more and dealing with these complex systems, it's very different experience than if you're working with a class size of 30. So you can't just say across the board, well, there's nothing wrong with the 70 class. It's the type of class that's important here. The applied exercise concentration is emphasized. This is something that we don't do a good job at, but this is where a lot of the job market growth is. American College of Sports Medicine had a statistic recently that they anticipate an 18% growth rate over the next 3 years. We're getting students, new students who are coming in. This is where an opportunity exists. Traditionally, we've kind of turned our back to those students, to be honest with you. We haven't done a good job of addressing their needs. Our approach is, let's do a good job. Let's be the best in the state in terms of getting these people the job, most prepared in terms of getting them the jobs. Physical activity and health promotion concentration, basically with public health. The Chronicle has identified that public health is an undergraduate major, it's a fastest growing major in the United States. Our intent, our hope down the road is this turns into an undergraduate degree, an interdisciplinary degree across multiple areas across campus, with a Bachelor of Science in Public Health. Are there course waitlist bottlenecks? Yeah, take your pick. You saw the numbers in terms of what goes on, and our students can certainly attest to that. Nearly all of our upper level courses, 600 level courses, have wait lists. They've had wait lists in the past. Our strategy, as I mentioned to you before, as a faculty, we decided that graduation rates were a priority. We were going to do what we needed to do to get students graduated. And on average, we graduate about 150 to 160 students every year. We've done a good job of getting students through. But again, my thought is it comes at a cost. Is it as good of an experience? Are they as prepared as what they could be? So it's not just about numbers, in my opinion. It's about the quality, and that's what we're addressing here. As a result of that, again, our lecture and lab sizes continue to escalate. Over 70 students in several 600 level courses, and again, I emphasize that the type of courses that we offer, this is not conducive to the best environment possible. Severely weakened educational experience. Challenges, lost opportunities fall in two categories: budget, enrollment. We're all familiar with the budget issues. Specifically with regard to us, we've cut 3 GTA positions over the last 2 years. Again, I remind you, every GTA means 4 labs that we've cut, which means our labs have gotten bigger as a consequence, or there's less opportunity, which means our lecture classes now have been reduced in size as well. Lots of faculty positions. The dean's been very generous, as well as the provost, in terms of we've had excellent hires over the last 3 to 4 years. Our faculty are doing wonderful. Our brand new faculty, extramural funding and teaching. But we've lost 2 faculty that we haven't been able to replace as well. So it's like 2 steps forward, 1 step back in terms of that aspect. Increased enrollment, I won't belabor the point, I've already made the case here. Class sizes, labs escalate, difficulty enrolling, more online classes. Again, the point that nearly 100% are students who are already on campus. Less opportunities for students to get to know faculty well. Again, I emphasize this is important. This is important that students get to know the faculty, not just on a see you in class basis. Difficult for students to participate in research experience. I mentioned before, it's not unusual to have 15 students on the wait list for research experience. Okay, students are being told and encouraged to get research experience, but we can't handle anymore. Fewer number of class offerings. Again, we've had to consolidate classes over the last several years, so we've had fewer classes but larger classes. And then I haven't even addressed the advising issues that's associated with a large major. So finally, in support of this proposal, we went to a number of different groups. In terms of our advisory board and the college advisory board, we presented the same exact proposal to them, vetted it with them, 100% approval. In terms of our student ambassadors and our student association officers, presented to them, all of them on board with this. And probably most important is the students themselves who are supporting this fee. And so what we did is approach that last fall, we sent out this proposal, everything that you saw in front of you, and the rationale on our listserv. And we just didn't send it to a select few, we sent it to everybody. We sent it to our entire student body. in terms of our majors, and said aloud, if you have any questions, please let me know. And believe me, I was inundated with questions over the next 4 weeks. It was over like Christmas break. A lot of questions, good questions, sound questions, okay? But I was able to answer them. Some of them didn't always agree with it, but at least they asked them. 4 weeks later, we sent it out again. This was shortly before the semester started this year, and discussed it the first week of classes. So each one of our faculty member in their classes discussed it amongst the classes, took some time out of the classes and discussed it and asked for questions as well. So we have plenty of opportunity for our students to understand what it is that we're asking of them. And then in January, we sent the survey out to all of our students, again, not a select few, but to all of them, saying, do you support this or not, as well as a few other questions, again, that was in your proposal, and that you saw in terms of their responses as well. And probably most dramatic is the fact that almost 80% of them were supportive of this fee, which, to be honest with you, blew me away. If this number would have come back to be 40 or 50%, I'll tell you up front that we wouldn't have gone forward with this. To me, that sends a message. There's enough uncertainty about this proposal that we wouldn't move forward. The fact that it was so overwhelming gives me a lot of confidence in that this is something that our students believe in. It's definitely going to help them. With that, I'm done. So.
Is the 70% of that 630 number, or what was the response to the survey?
Of this number?
Yeah.
We had over about 60% response rate.
Okay.
A little under about 56, 57%. And several of our faculty, the type of research they do is qualitative, so they understand survey research, which I don't, to be honest with you, and so they tell me that this is a valid response in terms of understanding. If we would have had a greater response, chances are our numbers would have made a difference. Yes.
You spoke to the amount of scholarships that you offer has increased by 60%.
Not the number of scholarships, the dollar amount.
Yeah, the dollar amount. So most of the scholarships at the university are merit-based, like the Putnams and different things like that, and that's a large commitment that the university has put on the individual colleges to support. What of that 60% total dollar amount increase was specifically for needs-based scholarships or scholarships that prioritize need?
Yeah, that's an excellent question. To be honest with you, very little. Our current scholarships are primarily merit-based as well. And it's something that we've talked about. Right now, we don't have a good vehicle in terms of determining that. You know, I think that's something that we're very interested, because when I mentioned these increase of the number of scholarships that we offer, these are coming from our own funds. So we have the latitude in terms of determining, you know, what are the criteria for that. So I think it opens itself up. Yeah, we're very open to that. Yes.
Yeah, so I'm interested because a lot of departments don't have the latitude because they come from donors.
Yeah.
And the donor specifies.
Yeah.
So why, I guess, is there a rationale for why needs-based scholarships haven't been prioritized?
Primarily because we haven't determined the appropriate vehicle to determining need-based. You know, other than asking the student themselves, you know, are you working 3 or 4 jobs? You know, what is your, what's your family income, situations like that?
Because there's a lot of colleges and departments across the campus that have a good sound vehicle for you.
And that's a great point.
I'll interject. Yeah. I think it's a little more complicated than that. Now, what they usually use is Pell Grant eligible, right? 25% of our students are Pell Grant eligible, but I think if you really dive down into need, that's a very shallow way to look at it. We have plenty of students here whose parents either don't provide any support for them to go to college, or they come from families that make income and that makes them Pell Grant eligible. That doesn't mean they're not working 2 or 3 jobs, but in the basic mechanism by which we use determining Pell Grant eligible, you're not going to catch those students. So I would challenge that the departments that you say that have a good mechanism, I'm not sure they're actually drilling down much farther than that to decide who's eligible and who's not. And in fact, if you look at scholarships, we do pretty well on the front end, the top end students, the Putnam scholars that were referred to. And if you're Pell Grant eligible, you probably have certain things that you can tap into. It's really the students kind of in the middle that have need that are much harder to judge in terms of what you should provide and how you go about that. It's very hard at a department level to make that determination.
Yeah, sorry, I don't mean to make this debate-like, but they're at KU and at Missouri, they're providing 100% of tuition and fees for Pell Grant students. And
Right.
we're definitely getting our butt kicked by them in
Right.
that realm. And I think you're right in terms of, I mean, there's a critical middle to where the parents may make too much for them to qualify for Pell, but my argument would be, wouldn't Pell be, isn't something better than nothing? Isn't at least helping some of our students?
But my argument is you can have students Pell Grant eligible who's actually not as needy as somebody who's not Pell Grant eligible. How do you judge that? Especially if you're going to kick that all the way down to the department level that's not handling all the financial aid to begin with.
And I guess one of the things to go back to that was you talked about how when Kenny saw a decrease in enrollment, it wasn't new students entering, it was your sophomore, junior, senior retention rates. And so my argument would be that wasn't based on classes and bottlenecks, that was based on cost of attendance.
I would disagree vehemently with that. You have no evidence that that's based on cost of attendance.
But I'm saying that has happened to many other students.
I think that if you were to tell me that name the student has come to you and said, I can't afford to go here, it's too expensive, I would never argue with that. But I would say 5 years ago, I could have found that student would have said the same thing. 10 years ago, I could have found a student that would have said the same thing. 20 years ago, I could have found a student that said, I just can't afford to go here. So I think we got to be a little bit careful when we start making assumptions of why a student enrolls or doesn't enroll, or continues or doesn't continue. That's all based on the cost of attendance. And I would argue some of the evidence that we had, it was interesting, our provost candidates that came in here from the external. One of the things they commented on across the board was how low our tuition is compared to places across the nation. And you might argue, well, you know, this is Kansas, we have a different, you know, market. But I can tell you from a faculty recruitment standpoint, my market is nationwide. I'm not recruiting faculty that are deciding between us or Emporia State. They're deciding between us or Clemson, us or Georgia, us or the medical school at Missouri.
But we're a land-grant school, we're here for Kansas, and we exist solely because of students. And when I look at a fee, I look at students only. Because that's our job here, is to protect students, because if we aren't here to talk about students, then it will be just about faculty recruitment across the country.
Yeah, I think that, you know, I'll disagree again with you since we're in this debate here. We're not here, there's more than just students that, as far as the land mission. So I think that was an oversimplification that I know you're aware of the other things that we do. Anybody that knows me knows that I spend an inordinate amount of time on the student experience. That's where my heart is. And in fact, if that goes away, if we become one of these research institutions where the undergraduates are a secondary concern, I'll be somewhere else. I can guarantee you that. So from that perspective, I think you and I are probably on the same page.
Yeah.
I think what happens sometimes is we need to step back, especially students, and try to get a bit of larger perspective on where we are here compared to across the nation. And I think sometimes that's difficult. I often tell, and you'll hear the next proposal, which is also from my college for personal financial planning. Our kinesiology students have absolutely no understanding of how great that department is and the quality of faculty that sit in front of them. They have nothing to compare to. This is the only thing that they know. This is where they went to school. But I can tell you that the faculty that I have in that kinesiology department can get a job anywhere. The faculty I have in the personal financial planning program can get a job anywhere. And so that's the sort of perspective that I'm trying to bring to this discussion.
I appreciate that.
May I relate to your question, Trent, because I think you're bringing up an important issue, but it's one that I don't think we can ask one department to solve.
Yeah.
And the examples that you said, you know, Mizzou, others have putting things in place. Both Dean Buckwalter and I serve on the steering committee of our Huron Strategic Enrollment Management Group. And there are some things that we've not provided department heads or deans or even provosts to help understand how much flexibility we have in the cost of our education, or how we utilize the resources we have related to scholarships, merit or need-based. And that's why we've chosen to have a consultant come in.
Yeah.
This is going to take all of us working together. And I think it's a good discussion, but it kind of detracts from what the department head Harms is talking about. It's not up to him to solve it, it's up to us to solve need-based scholarship requirements. When we solve it, we'll let all the department heads know. Your point is a good one. I just don't think it's for Craig to try to figure it out.
Thank you.
I've immersed myself and I haven't figured it out yet.
Other questions?
If no one else has one, I just have one on the slide that I missed. It was a breakdown of the fee regarding the 2 full-time instructors and then that other revenue. What was the third component? It was higher salary, future raises, and what was the third one?
Eliminate GTA positions.
Thank you.
Keep from.
Thank you.
Yeah, keep
Yeah. Important distinction.
Yes, sir. How many faculty do you have that have a research component to their job description versus teaching?
Yes,
Sorry.
we have 3 instructor positions.
Okay.
Okay. We have 2 faculty who have dual appointments, both in terms of kinesiology and anatomy and physiology, and we've got 7 faculty who have in kinesiology strictly who have research appointments.
Okay.
Anatomy and physiology in the veterinary school, not in the biology department.
Okay.
Yeah.
The 8-hour class you were talking about, is that what people call human body?
There's 2 courses. They both are. Students have the option of taking either one.
Okay.
Biology offers human body, which is what you're referring to.
Yeah.
We offer anatomy and physiology, which is the same experience, and both count for every professional school.
Okay.
So students simply have the option of either through biology department or through us. This is a class that we started about 11 years ago with Dean Bosco's help, basically support for this, because this was a huge bottleneck for us, trying to run all of our students through human body.
Gotcha.
So over the last 11 years, we've offered our own course as well.
Jonathan, you're going to talk about next steps.
Yeah, I can. Yep. So awesome. If there's no final questions, sweet. All right. If there's no final questions, next week we will be right back here. So if any of you guys have any questions in the meantime that you maybe weren't able to formulate today, feel free to send those in an email to me. I'll send a follow-up email with the minutes and all that out after this meeting. But if you have any further questions, send those to me by Thursday, and I will get those to Department at Harms. And then we'll be right back here next week, next Tuesday at 6 p.m. Same time, same place. And we'll have time for more questions, and then we can proceed to debate on the fee. So, are there any questions about anything so far? Process-wise? Great. Am I missing anything, Jack?
Please.
All right. Well, if not, thank you all so much for your time tonight. We appreciate it. We'll see you next week. Apparently.
Are you going to something next one?
I don't want to sit at the door.
Goodness, Sarah asked earlier, she asked me what time oh, is this 8? She said, you guys